Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Now when I first set up this channel, I established a rating system. I did it based on like the trophies and the PlayStation with bronze, silver, gold, and platinum rank, with bronze being the lowest, but not being like a bad game, just being like okay overall, something that maybe underwhelmed me or something in that vein, because any game I complete for this channel, it's because I genuinely felt like compelled to complete it in some way, shape, or form. So I picked games I know I'm going to enjoy, or at least I'm pretty sure that I'm going to enjoy it. And if I finish it, I'm going to review it for the channel. Today I want to talk about Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I recently replayed through Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie on the Rare Replay bundle. Had a great time. It was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to give Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts a fair shake because I know it's not a good banjo game, but I have heard from other people that it is a good vehicle building game, that it's a different type of fun game. And I really enjoyed Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube, primarily because I didn't play the older ones, so I didn't have as much experience with the dog-fighting nature of the original games. So I really enjoyed the adventure aspects. Not to say that it's a perfect game. I'm going to do a review on that one later. It's definitely not, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time. So I'm like, maybe I'll have an okay time with Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts if I just go into it with an unbiased look and just try out the new stuff that they put in. And I just have to say that Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts not only isn't a good banjo game, it's just not a fun game to play at all. There's nothing about this game that is enjoyable or interesting to me. Let's talk about Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts for what it is. So originally, this was going to be Banjo 3. The team had an idea for a trilogy for the Banjo-Kazooie series. They decided that they couldn't do a threequel justice on the current hardware that they had at the time. So they knew they couldn't do it on the Nintendo 64, so they were actually going to delay it. It wasn't like already in production, and then they were purchased by Microsoft. They knew that they wanted to get some new hardware before they did anything outside of the first two games, which I think was great because Banjo-Tooie suffers a lot from the limited hardware. There's like frame rate drops in the original version. The Xbox 360 version is much better, but the original version suffered quite a bit from that, from being hamstrung by the old hardware. But when they got purchased by Microsoft and the Xbox 360 was in development, they started work on this new game, and they had this whole idea to remake the original Banjo, kind of like how they did with Conker, but then it evolved into Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts as the way we know it now. So the big open worlds that they have in this game, they decided they wanted to fill them with vehicles to kind of give you a way to explore the world a little bit better. They wanted to give you this better option for traversal because they identified that as one of the weakest parts of like platforming games in general, is the traversal. Getting from point A to point B was the weakest part of the game. That's what they decided. So they're like, okay, we're going to do some vehicles. And then that evolved into being more integral to the gameplay itself. And if you play this game, they do have lots of worlds. They are very open and big, but they feel very devoid of life in almost every respect. There's barely anything to find in these worlds. Again, probably because this started off as a big Banjo-Kazooie remake to show off the new visuals and everything, but instead just turned into quest-style gameplay. So you go up with your character, you go up with Banjo-Kazooie to these guys, you talk to them for a little bit, you get a quest, and you go and do that thing. It's usually like a time limit thing that you have to do. You have a certain amount of time to drive X vehicle to the point Y, and then you get your Jiggy if you do it in a certain amount of time. You get some bonus stuff if you do it faster. It's very cut and dry. It's very by the books. Do a quest, get it done, start over, do another one. It doesn't feel nearly as satisfying as anything in the previous Banjo games. And as like a hybrid platformer here, one that has small platforming elements but is mostly vehicular based, it's just not enjoyable. It's not fun at all. And it's baffling that they decided to go this route entirely. I understand the idea of adding vehicles. They wanted to show off the new engine for the Xbox 360. They were like really excited by that. But to make it fully based around vehicles when the whole history of the series is a platforming series is absolutely baffling to me. And the gameplay just isn't that fun. Vehicle customization can be cool. Like there are some really cool things you can do in this engine. I think it was ahead of its time in terms of its vehicle creation. But for me, I only played a few hours of this game before I just tired out so fast. I was planning on like powering through, just doing the main story, not worrying about achievements if I had to, just get through and finish it off, even if it was bad. But I couldn't even do that. few hours in, my kids were bored to tears, and I was too. I was like, this just isn't fun. We're not having a good time together. There's nothing about this world that's compelling. The characters have been changed so much. Everything looks so different. I will admit that the worlds look gorgeous. I love what they did to remake Spiral Mountain. I think it looks really fantastic. But the second you see Banjo-Kazooie, all fat and terrible looking, I hate the like blocky design that they chose to go with. It's just a little sad, and every character feels that way. It feels like a bastardization of the characters in some way. They feel like they don't really pay homage to their original versions. They feel like they're making fun of the original versions, like they suck. Like they're every single joke at the beginning of the game seems to be at the old game's expense, which is baffling because that's your audience. That's who you want to attract, right? You want these people coming in that enjoy the original two to now enjoy this new game. But it just really feels like they're just throwing spitballs at them over and over and over again. I don't understand what the idea behind this. Put so much emphasis on how people don't like platformers anymore. Like collecting things sucks, and maybe that was part of the what people really saw at the time. Maybe that was part of their perception, but clearly the sales numbers indicate something completely different. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts only sold 140,000 copies by the end of the year that it was launched. It launched at the very end, like early November of that year, but still, for a threequel to a highly recognizable brand, a very high selling game franchise from the Nintendo 64, this was absolutely abysmal, and this led to Rare getting absolutely gutted. They started working on Kinect games and avatar based stuff. Nothing like they were before. After Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, they ceased to exist as Rare as we know it now. Now whatever they have left is fully devoted to things like Sea of Thieves, which it's good in its own right, but this was the collapse of Rare way back in the day. And it's just really sad to see because, like I said, this game just isn't very fun. There's nothing really compelling to pull you into the game. I just don't enjoy playing it. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a couple more fair shakes if I can, see how much of this game I can complete. But for right now, it feels like an unreviewable game because it feels like I just can't finish it. So that's my thoughts on Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I don't like it. I've seen some other opinions saying it's a good vehicle game, but I really don't see it. I don't find any enjoyment in playing this game. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think if you've tried out this one, and I'll see you on the next one.